back at it again with the fellas. It's been a while. You guys have been on some vacations, taking care of kids, all that fun dad stuff that you guys have fun doing that I don't have to do, at least yet. But no, good to see the smiling faces. Glad to see you guys are all relaxed and enjoying the summer at least as much as you can. Well, let's get into some wrestling talk, and I'm gonna start out with Ferrari. Why not, right? He's kind of the anomaly of wrestling right now of where the hell is he going and who's going to take that chance on that type of guy, right? Very high upside when it comes to him being on a mat, very bad look with him off the mat. So the latest is him taking trips to Colorado Springs, I should say Greeley, to Northern Colorado, and potentially joining up with another NCAA champion. A lot of people scratching their heads, wondering kind of how this came to be, and essentially why did he end up leaving Iowa? A lot of speculation there. But what do you guys make of a potential matchup with him at Northern Colorado?
I mean, if you're Nickerson and you're trying to get some more buzz and you're trying to get some other things going on there, I feel like there's probably a better way.
It is
I
a
don't
high
know.
risk.
And there is the part of me that is like, okay, well maybe he's making some changes, maybe he's talked to enough people and is doing the things that you would need a guy like that to do, and he's saying the right things. I don't know. I think you just get Alirez to come back and stick around, and it's not like those two were going to be training partners or anything like that. It wouldn't be like a package deal thing. I don't know. I don't know what the upside would be, except maybe having Northern Colorado potentially be like a top 10 in the country at NCAA's or something because you have two finalists, something like that. But then it's like, or maybe it just doesn't work and the guy flames out again, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you just had some. I mean, Nickerson just had a little bit of controversy, right? With I can't remember what the wrestler's name was, but him like intentionally hurting other wrestlers, right? Tweaking elbows and everything else, where you sit him for a little bit,
The
but then he
second year
doesn't
in a
learn
row
his
that it
lesson.
happened.
Yeah, and then he comes back, right? So why take a chance with a guy that we've seen do double birds in a split or have the legal troubles that he's had? Why take that chance, right? Like that's kind of my thought of like that's tough, right? So Robbie Austin, your thoughts on whether we see him at Northern Colorado or what to make of him taking trips there?
Yeah, I
It's
think
just so
it's
hard.
a
I can't imagine. Sorry, Austin. I can't imagine as a coach, like taking that risk, knowing everything that's coming with that, and signing up my team for that, my program that I've tried to develop, a culture around and tried to set expectations, and then you're just going to throw all that out the window to bring somebody in who is going to defy them, has a track record of doing really whatever the hell he wants to do. You know, repercussions be damned, he's going to do what he wants to do, and I can't imagine, I can't imagine the points at NCAA's being worth that. You also have to factor in, I mean, his deadlift hasn't gone up in 3 years, so how hard is he working outside to make himself better?
True. Plateauing at
Well,
its finest.
real quick though, too, just to comment on the culture piece. I mean, they've done a really good job with that program over the last several years. Anyway, we talked about a national champion. I'm literally looking at a bunch of their academic All-Americans that they had on there. They had a Big 12 finalist in Poulin. Like they've done really, really well with establishing a culture. But yeah, get right back to it. I don't know that this is the guy you want to come in to that culture.
Yeah, I mean, my assumption is there was at least a team meeting about it, and if the team agrees, a majority or whatever it is, it says, hey, yeah, we like the guy, we think he's better than he was, or he's working on it, okay, bring him in. But if it's just a coach saying, taking a chance and not really talking to the team and getting the vibe from them, it goes back to what you said, Kevin, about the culture. They have a good culture going. They have Alira's coming back. Steve O'Poulin was I think ran a 12 guy, and Vinny Zerban was like a 2 seed this year. So there's 3 potential All-Americans there. They already have. I just don't think bringing in someone like Ferrari to potentially rock that boat is the best idea. But we're not in those shoes. But
What do you look at too? Like when recruiting was going on for Angelo, so much of it was trying to make this a piece of all 3 of them coming together, and the majority of programs didn't want that. They didn't want to court that whole. I mean, we'll call it a circus. It's a circus. I'm not going to mince words.
Yeah.
Most programs didn't want that, and from the coaches that I've spoken with directly who recruited Angelo, they see him differently. He doesn't have the baggage the other 2 have. He seems to have a much better focus on the task at hand and what he's supposed to be doing. Seems to be less distractible, less interested in the limelight as the other 2. So I could never tie my wagon to somebody who's going to be such an issue. Like until proven otherwise, but he's had multiple chances and keeps doing the same thing.
Especially if you have a nice wagon.
Yeah, you can't. No slouch on that way. You're wearing a Sooners hat, so
yeah, there we go.
Wagons around.
yeah, I mean, not to mention though too, a lot of issues that the Ferrari brothers had at Oklahoma State kind of came from another teammate of theirs that's now at Northern Colorado. I'm not sure how much is public knowledge, but again, just another. Again, you add someone really good to the culture that's going to fit in their program, and then you bring this guy in he's had issues with in the past, one of many wrestlers who he's had issues with, right? So, again, to me, is the juice worth the squeeze? Probably not, but, that's just me.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Like, they're, at least people in the know, I guess I should say, they know that there was something happening between them that dates back even further than them being at Oklahoma State, right? Like there's a lot between the Mastros and the Ferraris where they didn't get along at Blair, and then they didn't really get along at Oklahoma State. So, bringing that together, probably
Third
not
time's a
something
charm.
you want to do. Yeah, you better hope so. You better hope so because it doesn't seem like. It seems kind of like a recipe for disaster, honestly.
And then you add in all the reptiles, and it just complicates things even more.
Right when you've got your own zoo that is in Stillwater and everything else, like it's not very healthy. But no, like that kind of is like a recipe for disaster. And like I said, as a wrestler, purely as a wrestler, when you look to Ferrari, you say yes, title contender. The upside is there for him on the mat. Off the mat is where the issues lie. And that's where you can't monitor him 24/7. And you shouldn't have to monitor another adult, but you got to keep them kind of wrangled in. And it's not what you want to be focused on as a coach. You want to be focused on recruiting, winning titles, this new NIL craziness that we have going on, which you're going to have to really partake in to get a guy like that. It's the money is a factor. When I talked to Alirez, he literally said that the money was a factor. I wanted to see what my options were. It's not going to be any different bringing in another high profile guy like Ferrari, right? And, you try to want to give a guy some sort of benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's grown, this, that, and whatever, not trying to prosecute the guy, but if you have legal troubles, it's not like everyone's out to get you. Sometimes you just continue to screw up and it's not, it's just not good. So that's the hard part for me is like, yeah, I can understand wanting a NCAA champion in your lineup. There's one in the transfer portal, or he's not even enrolled anywhere. So he's not really, he's not technically not really in the portal. I don't even know, but like it's a guy that you can bring in that can do some damage.
Yeah. And then, we talk about UNC, Northern Colorado. I think he was at Ryder this past weekend or 2 weekends ago. I haven't seen or heard anything since then. I'm not sure how mutual that interest is it might be one way or the other. I'm not sure. I don't know if you guys have any updates on that. I just saw he was kind of there and it's on his list, but being a New Jersey guy, it might make sense going back home.
I mean, I'm sparingly paying attention to it. It's something that like you keep in your periphery because you want to know kind of what's happening and where he's going or anything else. But like, he had a little bit of time at Blair and became like a full on Jersey guy, and then was over at Bergen and became even more of a Jersey guy after, and then moved back to Texas. Was back at Allen. So like, I don't know. I think I'm more surprised that coaches are willing to take a chance on him, honestly, just like after everything that they've seen him do. We mentioned the Mastro part of it, and he's not even on their roster right now. So like, there's that. So like, that might not even be a thing, but if it is, you got to kind of take that into consideration, right? Like we talked about, some of the other issues that they had with, guys trying to injure people, but they've cleaned that up, and Clunch, you talked about how their culture has changed, a ton of academic All-Americans, guys on, in the Big 12 finals, guys, becoming All-Americans. They've really done a really good job. Nickerson specifically has done a very good job with creating this team and putting this team together and keeping hometown talent in Alirez in the hometown for as long as he has. Even though Alirez was in the transfer portal, he still didn't leave. That he's kind of a needle in a haystack, right? Like you're not going to have a lot of guys coming out of Colorado that are going to want to stay there. They're going to want to go other places, right? Colton Schultz, he's a Colorado guy.
Salazar from Minnesota too.
Yeah. So like
specifically from Greeley.
Exactly. So there's, being able to keep your top talent home and not just keep him home, but turn him into a champion is a very big deal. And I'm surprised that Nickerson and staff would want to take that chance on a guy like Ferrari, who, is no stranger to controversy, talking shit, this, that, whatever. I mean, a little bit of shit talk goes a long way, but like, let's reel it back. You don't want to be flipping birds and doing splits, in Greeley, Colorado. Like, it's not going to be the best thing for that type of program. So, I mean, I can remember when he was being recruited, and I thought he was honestly going to go to Rutgers because of how much he loved being in Jersey and how much they embraced him at Bergen and how much those coaches embraced him. And, so I was surprised that he made it to Oklahoma State when he did, ultimately becoming a champion. But I thought that he was kind of pegged for Rutgers at that point. So maybe he does make his way back to Jersey and heads to Rider. But the other thought is what happened with Iowa, right? What made him leave? And, he wasn't even signed there, but tons of pictures, with him and Keeter working out in the gym. Every single one of the videos he would post when you would see it on Twitter, he was in Iowa's gym, and it's just kind of a crazy story, right? Like he ends up there somehow, was training there, gets into a fight with the 97-pounder that they had in Glazier at the tournament, but then can still, continue to be in the room and around the team, obviously, but it just didn't work. Something just didn't work. So maybe we'll see him on the mat again. I think we all thought we would probably see him on the mat maybe last year or something else, and he screwed that up. So we'll see what happens. My thought on the Iowa thing is that they didn't sign off on it. They weren't going to sign off on him coming in. I think the AD that they have now, that's now no longer the interim. She was the interim when they were looking to bring him in. And I think that they were like, that she said no, right? And things didn't get any better. She gets the job and she's just like outright no. That's my speculation. That's what I think ultimately happened, but who's to really say?
Well, and I'm sure he wouldn't have been there if it wasn't because the coaching staff didn't want to bring him in, you know what I mean? But I'm sure this is also like, sorry guys, I don't know what to tell you. We wanted the package deal.
Yeah.
I guess we can't, Yeah. But, but just one other thing you had said earlier, Brian, that I thought was really interesting is like, At the end of the day, yeah, I mean, like, we're talking about it right now, right? But at the same time, Mace, I'm kind of sparingly. What I want to know is which staff's going to take a chance.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're all kind of waiting to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only that, what happens to his brother? Because they were always talking about being together on a team somewhere, right? And being in the same color singlet. But his brother's going to be at Iowa. Believe he signed there. Everything else is in play, and he's going to be there, right? And he wants to be the starter at 74, which is a complete different conversation for Iowa and their issues at 74. At least their logjam at 74. So, but yeah, I mean, what happens there, right? If he's obviously going to end up somewhere else. He's not going to be in that black and gold. So
App State's black and gold.
this is true. This
go.
is true.
Mizzou.
This is true. It's not going to be, but it won't have a hawk on it, I guess.
Yeah.
So
they just left it vague,
very, very vague. These are the colors I want, but I'm not sure if they're going to be in this state.
We'll see.
So
we'll honestly, just to kind of put a bow on that, hopefully, maybe a little bit of legalized medicine in Colorado would be good for a guy like AJ to kind of tone him down a little bit. It's take the edge off, go to sleep, wake up, and let's go back to work.
Yeah, maybe. Considering that, what is it? Was the NCAA that just said they're no longer testing for marijuana?
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah, good segue. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. I mean, yeah, but let's stick in Iowa on some good news for an Iowa team, and maybe AJ leaving is good news for Iowa fans. Maybe some of them didn't want him, but Iowa State picks up a guy, Christian Carroll, leaving Oklahoma State, heading off to Iowa State. I was pretty surprised by that. Didn't really see that coming. You figured, okay, they had their time to be with Taylor and the things that he is trying to implement in the room. And ultimately, and then he, went off to the trials. And then after the trials is when, he's off to, off to Ames. So I thought that was really interesting. The even more interesting part is that he's probably going to stay at 97 as well. He's really big. I don't know how he makes 97. He's a thick dude. So him being at 97 was still very interesting to me. But like the fact that he even left Oklahoma State, or that there's other guys that could potentially be leaving Oklahoma State. D. Lockett didn't sign, but he's another guy that they're talking about, where he was in Ames all week. He was taking some visits, getting some calls from Iowa, right? So like that's another piece of the puzzle that people expected to be in Oklahoma State that might not be. He did put out a tweet saying he's, focused on Worlds, and he's focused on, being the best that he can be and everything else. But there's more, things circulating about him, being there all week and what that truly means. What'd you guys make of seeing the kind of the first big recruit for Oklahoma State that John Smith had, kind of that first domino falling and a guy leaving Oklahoma State and heading off to Iowa State?
It was surprising, to say the least. I mean, here's what I don't understand. And I don't know if we're going to have the answer or if I'm just going to be walking in circles here with this. But, like, didn't we say a couple weeks ago, like, oh, yeah, their time to enter the transfer portal's closed? And look, they all stayed. And yet now...
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that was confusing to me, too, where I thought they had an extension of maybe a week or something after new coach comes in or something. So I don't know. That's something to look into. I don't know what the extension was, because I thought that, it was all done and those guys were at Oklahoma State for the time being, and that was that. So I'm not really sure kind of how that all happened and how he was able to leave and how he's going to be eligible and all that other stuff. But yeah, I had thought that the door was closed on that.
Well, and then the other thing, and I understand in reality, right? Like if you're the coaches of XYZ program and you have D. Lockett's phone number and you want to try to convince him to come to your school, even at this late point, I mean, like, you probably try to do it because it probably helps your livelihood in the end of the day, right? But I also can't imagine, I don't know. I feel like, although I was 18, I literally just went to the last place that I visited. So if I visited another school, maybe I wouldn't be as fired up about the Chippewas, but I didn't, so that's where I ended up. So I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on a kid's decision or a coach's decision to call him this late, but it does seem like there's no rules anymore for loyalty, and I don't understand. It's a wild thing to watch unfold.
It really is. You know, here I thought that all of the rumor mill of guys leaving and going here was kind of done. Like I thought that like we had figured it out, like not so much figured all that stuff out, but I thought that like for the upcoming season, we were set, right? Like maybe you have a guy here or there, some coaching moves, stuff like that, but like thought transfer portal stuff was over. Thought, you know, D Lockett was signed, sealed, delivered, but he wasn't signed. You know, I had assumed that he was, but he's not, you know, so he's apparently taking some visits and seeing what type of options are out there. So, you know, if he's at Ames, he's thinking I can work with David Carr. If he's in Oklahoma State, he's thinking I could work with David Taylor. It really depends on which David you want in this situation here. So we'll certainly see. But like he did during his recruiting, he did take trips to Iowa and Iowa State. So he knows what they have to offer, but or at least he knows what they had to offer before. Those things may have changed. Financial things may have changed. NIL is a very big play, and it's huge. It is enormous for these guys to want to look at. And if you have a guy like D Lockett who is beating guys who have been in college lineups and, you know, making world teams, you know, on that next level, and he's unsigned, you're like, you're saying there's a chance, right? Like, why not? Why not take a shot at it? So I guess his recruiting really isn't closed. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But this whole recruiting landscape is kind of set on his head, right? Where we have a whole new crop and a whole new class of kids that is now being recruited, where now you have Jax Forrest who's in the mix. Now you have Bo Bassett that's in the mix. I want to talk about Bo Bassett and what he's doing with his recruitment, because I think what Bo is doing is something that we've never seen before. NIL, this is kind of like the first like true crop of guys with like NIL, right? Like where their NIL has kind of taken shape. I even think that today is like the birthday of NIL, where it really kind of took hold. So like he's really within wrestling, I should say, not so much NIL as a whole, but within wrestling, he's really taking a hold of the market value of his recruitment and trying to squeeze all the juice out of it, right? He's doing interviews, he's doing camps, but then he's got this like grand graphic with 9 million schools on it. And, you know, for me, I'm gonna be honest, I'm like, man, this is a little bit extra, right? Like every Wednesday, tune in for the next episode of the Bo Bassett show where he's taking more logos off. But then when you look at things, you're like, this is just the nature of the game. Like it's the new game. So you're either going to be the old guy shaking his fist and shouting at clouds, you know, to get off my lawn, or you're going to embrace the fact that these guys now have a way of making money and truly grasping the horns of their market value. So as much as I do believe that some of it is a little bit extra, I do see that the game has changed, and you're either gonna get on board with it or you're gonna be left behind. And all of us have gone through recruitment to some degree and to some level. It's obviously very different for how we've all been recruited. You know, we're all varying ages. So recruiting has gone through a complete evolution, literally with the three of us. And now we're seeing another complete evolution of it. What do you guys make of, Austin, I'm going to come to you first. What do you make of this new recruiting, marketing kind of molded factor of everything that we're seeing that Bo Bassett is kind of spearheading?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. If I put on my old man yelling at the clouds hat, it's I mean, let's be honest, there were only 4 or 5 schools ever in play, you know, so why, not that he's entertaining all 80 of them. I get what he's doing, you know, but like, to me, it's like, all right, if there's a team that's maybe in your top 10, is it worth noting them? If they're, does he even have a top 10 or is it a top 5? You know what I mean? It's, you know, to me, being a Drexel alum, like, it's cool seeing Drexel on that list, but they'll probably be the next one knocked off. You know, he's not going to be top 60. But the other side of it is, yeah, I mean, Bo and the whole family pretty much has had a camera in their face since a young age, right? So he kind of sees the value in getting his word out there, getting his value out there. So I think he's using that to his advantage, which is good. And whether you like it or not, trying to like piggyback what you said, that's how it is now. That's what NIL is all about: getting your value up, getting your brand up, and you know the kids, high school kids, college kids, you know, even fans are loving seeing his updates every Wednesday. So me, I'm kind of sitting on that fence of, do I like it? No, but is that the way it is? Sure, I'll have to accept that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like what Bo's doing just because like he's always been a hard worker. He's always produced on the mat. He's all like everything that you'd want from a seemingly a good kid, right? Like I have nothing but evidence of him being a hardworking, successful wrestler who seems to be doing a good job and with his team. But somebody's gonna mess this up. It's not for him. I'm saying somebody's gonna try to do their own social media thing and make a wrong step somewhere. So I hope that people have good teams around them and people around them to make good decisions and do this the right way. Until then.
Yeah. Yeah, like if Bo was a shithead, if it was like, man, this kid, he's an issue, he's a problem, he's egomaniac, he's all about himself, but he's not. Like I've seen him at Elite 8, and I've seen how him and his team interact and how he interacts with him and Jax and him and his little brother and him and coaches and him and other wrestlers on other teams. Like, as much as he is for himself when he is out on that mat, but it's also like such a team aspect where, you know, they didn't take first last year at Elite 8. I think they did. I don't even know if they did the past 2 years. I'm not even sure. Can't remember completely off the top of my head, but he's always in the team mix. And when Bo's on the mat, he's a guy you want to watch. But he's also a team guy where you see the wheels turning of, all right, we need a major here, or all right, we need a pin here. So he has that teammate aspect, right? So like anybody that ends up getting him, you know, and for me, I think it's like Ohio State, Penn State, Oklahoma State. Those are the teams that I think that are truly in the mix for him. But like any of those teams is going to be lucky to have a guy like that, because he's going to want to do everything he possibly can to prop up the team, not just him. Like he's like, if I got to be the guy that's the rah-rah guy and it's on camera and puts out the marketing and has this and has that, then so be it. I'm going to be that guy. That's just his personality. But he does not shy away from doing the work, and it matters. You see him at Last Chance. You see him wrestling with some of the best guys in the world at Last Chance, right? Some of the best guys we've had in the country that were NCAA champions. Like I said, if he was just, you know, a little shithead, you'd be like, man, somebody shut this kid up. And you have your troll accounts that are like, oh, it's the latest installment of the, you know, the pick me. But like, you truly have to admire the fact that,
well, yeah. And meanwhile, the coaches are the ones going, pick me.
Exactly. Right. Like, hey, is our logo staying on that graphic? Right.
Right.
But like you have a kid who has the financial literacy already. Things that, like, let's be honest, didn't learn until I was like in my 20s, 30s, right? Like I was a dumb kid. Like, oh, I want that. I'm going to buy that. I got $100. Here you go. Right. Like, no, like he's already doing the things that he needs to do to put himself in place. And I think that's an awesome thing, because like I said, having the financial literacy and understanding business and understanding, you know, that part of the world and being able to grow, you know, yourself as a business and as a brand is incredible. But two, it also means that we've come a long way in wrestling specifically, not just in athletics. When you look at how NIL has worked in football, I mean, hell, I'm here in Austin, and I think a couple weeks ago they lined the streets with Lambos to welcome in the new recruits for UT football. So like, while that's like, wow, we've come a very long way, because, you know, just a couple hours ago, there's a team that got the death penalty in SMU. Now we're lining streets with Lambos. That's awesome for football. But like, when you look at wrestling is now becoming more sustainable for our top wrestlers to just be wrestlers. You know, Jordan Burroughs is a wrestler first. He may be getting on the mic and doing some things, but he's a wrestler first. If David Taylor doesn't have the wrestling career that he has, you know, there's no telling if he's getting that he's definitely not getting that opportunity to coach at Oklahoma State. But even before then, he has the opportunity to just be a wrestler, right? Put in quotes, right? Like, to not have to worry about, oh, I have to go to my full-time job and then I have to make sure that I'm at wrestling practice and that I'm still training and everything else. Nico wants to do that. You know, that's a passion for Nico, to have a regular job and be a regular guy that can also kick your ass. But, you know, we have the David Taylors. We have, you know, guys like David Carr, who is probably going to be on that same side of things. Guys, you know, any like Carter Sirachi, who's definitely going to be on that side of things, right? Like, the fact that it is now like a sustainable thing to be an athlete and then have some side quests that you want to do, of being an announcer or coaching your club or having your own club, that's amazing. And like, the people that want to say anything about Bo marketing himself, just stop. Like, embrace the fact that years ago, we didn't even know what our wrestlers actually did outside of wrestle. Like, it's just like, oh, you know, they always talk about how Michael Jordan played against plumbers and teachers and stuff like that. Like, guys in wrestling were literally plumbers and strapping on the shoes after like a 12-hour day.
I remember at a Fargo camp my senior year, and TC Dantzler was there, and we were asking him, for those who are listening who don't know, TC Dantzler, Greco-Olympian world team member for many years. Awesome
Love
wrestler.
that dude.
And so, but we were asking him about his schedule and everything. And he's like, I love you kids, but I'm here because I'm getting paid. And also, I have a job that I have to go to. I get up, I work out, I go to work, get out of work, I work out again, I go back to sleep. We were just like blown away. And it seems completely unsustainable. So the fact, this is a better world, even with all the craziness and the transfers and all that stuff. I mean, like, there's a lot of uncertainty still, but I am certain that this is better than it was.
Yes,
so.
It is.
Yeah, and even looking at the RTC level too, you know, a lot of those guys back in the day before RTC started, they would have to have a real job, some coaching job, and still order to compete. Now they're full-time wrestlers. Talking to Darian Cruz about my article that just dropped today. Check it out, nice drop there. But he said it wouldn't be possible without RTC, you know, stipends, you know, because his wife can stay home, watch the kids. He can be a family man and focus on wrestling full time and not have to worry about that extra income. Just kind of NIL and RTC, they're kind of in the same pocket there, literally, where they're putting, you know, food on the table for you and, you know, making yourself worth it.
Yeah, I mean, think about some of even just in the rumor mill, right? Like, I don't think that I'm sure some people know for sure what dollar amount that some people are making with their NIL deals. But like, most of it is rumor of, oh, this guy was, I think there was a tweet where it was like, oh, you know, Iowa offered Alirez $500K and Oklahoma State said they're going to match it. First of all, I know for a fact that that Oklahoma State did not say that they were going to match it. I know what the dollar amount was that he was offered. I was told. But it was still a good amount of money, right? Like, the fact that those types of figures are being like thrown around is crazy. It's insane. It's not something we would ever think that we would see in wrestling, but we do. And we have that now. And I think that's the amazing part about it, is now it is becoming a sustainable thing for our athletes. And, you know, there is something where people want to invest in the sport. Hopefully that continues to happen, because this latest court case, who the hell knows what is truly going to, come of wrestling and Olympic sports in general. I mean, you've got Iowa State ADs talking about halting projects because they don't know what the price tag of, basically, we don't know what the price tag of our future 5-star quarterback is going to be. So we're going to put this money back in our pocket before we start building a new facility, right? There's been, what was the other school that kind of said the same thing, where they're going to have to pause things too. Illinois, yeah. They're going to have to pause things. So just hopefully things continue to stay invested in, and we continue to see growth when it comes to all the things happening within our sport, because it's the first Olympic sport. Thanks to women, it stayed in the Olympics. Women's wrestling is growing exponentially along with these NIL deals. So things are certainly trending up. Let's hope that, a court case aimed at Power 5 football schools, or Power 4 football schools, I should say, doesn't ruin it for everyone else. So that's kind of me on the soapbox of who the hell knows what's going to happen, but it's a sustainable type of, at least it seems sustainable right now. Maybe not sustainable, but it seems like it's being invested in. And that's something that we certainly want to keep. You guys have any thoughts on NIL deals and the sustainability of it?
So I was listening to a podcast today earlier on, they were talking about NBA salary camp, NBA or free agencies going on right now, and they've got this new system in place. So there's these different tiers, and then all of a sudden this other thing kicks in, and it means that it's essentially a hard cap. They don't know what they're doing either. I don't know. I'm not saying there's no hope, but I think at some point, we'll have to put some things in place. And I also do kind of recognize that it's like, okay, if you're a bigger school, or if you're a school that does these other things, like, you probably should and would have some more resources. But I don't know how that would necessarily be different than it was back in the day anyway, right? Didn't the bigger schools always have the best resources?
Exactly.
So we're not changing that. It's just we got to put some limits maybe on where some things are divvied out. Hopefully that happens.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it just seems like almost like the Wild Wild West lately with some of these prices that we're seeing. Guys making $250,000, $300,000 a year to wrestle, which just seems crazy to me, because if I'm a college coach at one of those universities, I'm saying, I'm coaching this guy. My salary is half of what that guy's making in one. Like where does it stop? Where does it plateau? And my other thought is, say some big donor invests in NIL for some big 5-star stud coming in, and he gets hurt, flunks out of school, something happens, he has to change schools, but where's that money that guy donated going? Is he going to get that back? I know there's one lawsuit with, I think the Alabama football player, I'm sure Holmes, you might know about it, but yeah, just people that invest in these huge donors and they don't get their ROI, what's that going to look like in the future too?
There's no refunds in the NIL game, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
When that money's gone, that money is gone. And that's the wildest part about it is I think it is Alabama there
was an LSU quarterback I know from a couple years ago who never played a snap, was just like, thanks, I don't want to play football anymore.
There's what is it? Well, Quinn Ewers, the quarterback that currently at University of Texas, reclassified because here in Texas, high school players can't receive NIL money. So he reclassified and went to Ohio State for a year so he could collect the NIL bag that was being offered to him. And then he was like, all right, I'm going back to Texas now. Thanks, Ohio State. So that happened. But I know there is a lawsuit right now. I think it's against Florida, where a player said that he was offered like like $13 million. Something crazy. I'm pretty sure it's like in the $13 million ballpark. And
12 million is where I draw the line.
Right? But he's suing them because he's saying that they offered him this and it changed his mind, which you offer me 13 million. I'll tell you, the sky is red every day. But it changed his mind to the point where he lost all these other offers, and it drastically changed his recruitment. So now he's suing and saying, well, what you said to me and how you coaxed me into doing this was that 13 or so million that I'm no longer getting. So now I'm out that money and I'm out these offers from all these other schools. So somebody's got to pay the man is basically what he's saying. So like, it's pretty insane. I don't think we've seen anything that's been too crazy from a wrestling standpoint. You know, and the thing that I honestly love about things in wrestling is that like it's not being flaunted like it is in other sports, right? Like things like that aren't happening. Yeah, we've got guys. I mean, Dayton Fix got a new truck 2 years in a row. You know, you've got guys. I mean, I even think D Lockett got a car from an Oklahoma car dealership too. So like,
but even something like that, that's marketing.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
like, that's not the guy flaunting
Exactly.
so much.
But that's like a new truck. That's
Right.
not like CJ Stroud driving a Mercedes G-Wagon, right? Like that's completely different, right? So like it's just obviously it is night and day between football and wrestling, but the things that are happening in wrestling, I can't be that old guy shaking his fist at clouds. You know, I love to see the fact that you have to be one of the most disciplined humans on the face of the earth. You have to make weight multiple times a week. You have to compete multiple times a week. You don't really have time to, you know, go get a job yourself. You barely are going to class in season because you have to fly here, there, and everywhere else. Yeah, you should be able to make some money off of all the work you're doing. So, you know, it is kind of a catch-22 where you're like, man, this isn't the best thing for us, but in a sense it kind of is.
I don't think this is be a story that I can't share, so I'm going to share it. But again, talking about jobs in college and training and everything, I was literally just talking to a guy the other day who wrestled at Central, and he was like, yeah, summertime, Win would get up in the morning, Win Mahalik, he'd get up in the morning, he'd lift and get a workout in, and then he would run to his job, his summer job. He would work all day there. It was at a mini golf place or something, and then he would run back and get in another workout. And it's like, yeah, guy had to get it done.
Yeah.
NCAA finals.
Yeah. Now, we touched on, you know, a lot of things so far, but now I want to go back to the international side. And Austin, your article was awesome, by the way. I did read it. There was a lot of words in it, but I did read it.
It was a long one, yeah.
It was a long one. There was a lot of words, but I feel obligated to read Lehigh Valley stories when they come out. I will be talking to Darian too, so looking forward to kind of getting some perspective on his training and some other things too. So that'll be out later on in the week. But on the Olympic side of things, we already have our Olympic team. Guys are, they're training, everything else. But then we still have non-Olympic weight worlds and trials that are coming. And I actually just texted Richard Immel about dates and everything. And date and location of non-Olympic trials is not set yet. So glad I got confirmation on that because I was looking for it on the schedule. We were all looking for it before we came on here. And it's not set yet. So just got that text literally as we're sitting here recording. But there are guys that, obviously didn't make the Olympic team that I think we're going to end up seeing at non-Olympic weights. And the first guy I think we're going to end up seeing is Jordan Burroughs. And, I did reach out to him, try to get an interview with him. He's still just chilling, doing his Jordan Burroughs thing, hanging out with the starting five of a family he has and doing his thing. But like, I don't think he's done. I just don't. And, that's not an indication of the conversation we had because all it was me asking for an interview and him turning it down. So that was the long and short of it. But, kind of digging back into the things that he said, where he said that 2024 was his last year. Non-Olympics is essentially his last chance to end up a champion. And, no pun intended, but the last time he wrestled at a non-Olympic weight, he lost a chance. So, but I think that we see Jordan Burroughs wrestle at least one more time at non-Olympic weight worlds because he hasn't said anything since Olympic trials at all. Nothing public, There's been posts about, his camp and kids and, but nothing when it comes to his training, nothing when it comes to whether or not he is done. I would assume that, in true Jordan Burroughs fashion, that him and Rudis are combining on a grand gesture and a grand video that we will see that, salutes the king for sure. But I don't think he's done. Do you guys have kind of the same inkling that we will see him at non-Olympic weight worlds?
You can go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, I was just having conversations lately with some of the people at Penn, Drexel, covering people I cover in my conference there. That's kind of the feeling I get too, without anyone saying yes or no, right? That's just kind of the feeling I get, and just knowing a competitor that he is, he doesn't want to go out the way he did at Penn State, with them booing him and him kind of barking back a little bit out of frustration. That's definitely not him. That was out of character, and I think he's going to go out on top this one last time and maybe leave the shoes on the mat for good after that. That's just kind of the feeling I get. I agree with you, Ryan.
I just can't imagine, and granted, I have not gone through what I can only imagine is some very difficult, times after the trials, not to mention the last decade plus of him training and trying to chase this dream and trying to do all the amazing things he's done. I've not done any of that. But I also think that having gone through that, it would probably be that much harder to walk away from. And I know it's a non-Olympic weight, but it's still happening. And somebody, whatever the non-Olympic worlds happens, is going to walk away with a gold medal, and he's going to be pretty pissed if he didn't try it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Who else do we think we see at that weight at trials?
Probably Nolf, right? Why not?
Yeah, I'd assume so. Nolf, Chance, anyone else that was up at 86? I mean,
maybe Dieringer.
Maybe Ringer. I know Ringer. I talked to him, and he said that this is his last go round. So maybe like Burroughs, same thing. I mean, hell, we could be at this point next year looking at a completely different crop of wrestlers at 79 and 74. Because a lot of these guys are just like, all right, this is it. Like, I mean, Dake included in that, right? Like,
yeah.
We could see a completely different, set of guys in there.
What about a guy like Keckeisen?
At 79 or at 86?
No, I guess he would have been at 86. Yeah, never mind. He was.
Yeah, I think he's more of an 86. He's kind of big. And the funny thing that you say that, but I was honestly thinking that maybe Srirachi tries to make 79.
Yeah.
Even though he's pretty big as well, but 79 is easier than 74. And Nolf is competing now in grappling at like 80 kilograms. I think he's in the Craig Jones thing that's like minus 80. So it's like split in two pots. It's like minus 80 and plus 80. Because Pat Downey is in the plus 80. So
does he come back now?
Man, if he gets his training right, who knows? But no, I think the interesting weight classes, or at least 79 is going to be the most interesting again. 74 and has been the most interesting for us over the year. I mean, it's been one of the most dominant as well, between Burroughs and Dake. So I think 79 is certainly going to be up there for these guys. They're putting it on their pegboards and saying, all right, this is where I'm going. This is possibly my last chance. I think Nolf stays around for another quad. I think we continue to see Nolf. And maybe Nolf becomes the new 74 if Dake is done this year. But non-Olympic weights, specifically 79, I think these guys are going to give it, one last go.
I'm pretty
outside
sure
of that, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we'll see probably David McFadden at 79 too, with his move to Spartan up at Cornell.
Yeah.
And maybe Chance comes back down too, because he was up at 86, right? So just another guy there that might make that cut down.
Yeah, I would imagine Chance and ends up going 79, not up to 92.
Yeah.
It's interesting how many people did retire. You know, like what if Jaden would come back for 92 or something like that? Or I know we're getting into other weight classes now, but you know, just thinking, I'm like, man, this is going to be awesome. We might get like Vito and Fix again at 61 or you know something like that. So.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Like, I think we definitely get Vito and Fix at 61. And that's what I was going to move on to is like 61 is the next most intriguing weight.
Well,
you know?
And so, I'm sorry, I'm going back now, but I assume like a guy like David Carr and a guy like Keegan O'Toole would probably get shots at that.
Yeah, I was surprised that Carr wasn't at the trials. Maybe he was nursing something we didn't know about. At least didn't compete, right? Like he was there, looked fine, but I was surprised he didn't compete.
Said that to him there. You look fine. What are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Say it to his face.
Shoot him a text. I mean, he didn't look like he was, handling any injury, right? At least any lower body injury. There's no limping or anything from, when I saw him on camera. But like, they said that O'Toole had some sort of injury, which is why he was out. But maybe he's in at 79, for non-Olympic weight. I think 70 is also intriguing. James Green is back, and 70 has been his weight. But Pantalio's also a phenomenal wrestler at 70. Does Alirez try to get in there at 70? Does Yanni try to get in there at 70?